Howdy, welcome back. Today we're here to talk about this semi-custom Mystery Sith from Starfall. The customer had some specific requests, so we did go with the resin greeblie chassis on this one, and then they also asked for a bunch of extra fonts. So when we get to the blade portion, I will demonstrate a few of those fonts just to show off the functionality and make sure that the customer knows that we went and did all that. But right off the rip, very cool design. Obviously, we've got parts from like the Infinity line mashed up with, found and hand etched parts. I'm not sure what this says. I've already forgotten. But we do get the crystal chamber shine through with some milled slot there. We've got the Saberbay / Kessel Custom Sabers switch, and those have the aluminum housing with the brass plungers. We've got an infinity blade plug, and we've got a blade retention set screw here. So no tools necessary on this one. And on this one, I had to go with a Goth3D emitter. I had a stock in here and it was giving me trouble. So I replaced it with this one. And so with that said, we've got like the high end, like I've done for some of my other customers, like David at the Saber Museum. So you can see there's, I think, 28 pixels subdivided into 3 rings there. And yeah, so let's hop down to the table. Let's talk about some of the rest of the electronics. We'll show off the greeblies and stuff like that. We'll go through a couple of the functions. And then again, like I said, we'll show off this with a blade and let the customer know that we did install those additional font packages. So here it is down here. Again, no need for tools. We have a blade retention set thumb screw here, and then the grip just comes off here. This is a 1-inch diameter neopixel blade. And then when the switches are facing you, left is your main and right is your aux. This is running OS 8.5. So this was the particular greeblie design that the customer requested. They liked this layout because I think it has a mix of Edison filament and then some baffled vents here. So we've got those subbladed. I'll turn this off for just a moment so we can see. Subbladed into 3 different things, and those will just do different things in the on and off state. And then we've got a crystal with a single neopixel under there. So got our 18650 with a Saberbay battery wrap, a 28 millimeter KR bass speaker, and then I've got a little offset ring here so that we make sure we don't touch the bottom of the pommel cap there. This is a very tight build. Cool design. Obviously, I've done this a few times. I tried to, get close to matching the paint aesthetics and such. So, but then obviously with the little touches of color like I like to do, a little bit of heat stain pigments where necessary, stuff like that. You can really see some of those tiny. And if anyone's curious, by the way, of how I do this, I don't know that anybody's asked for sure, but there is a thing called the Insane Detail Paintbrush. So you can see, let me see if I set this down for just a second. So I got this off Amazon. It's from Army Painter, and you can see it's just the tiniest little thing. So I end up using just like a dab of paint. Literally, I'll have a little dropper, put a single drop onto a palette, and then put a single dab, and then make sure I didn't drink a whole lot of coffee. So anyway, that's that. So yeah, we have the Starfall font package. As you were hearing some of those go through here. So each preset will do something a little different in the emitter, something a little different in the crystal chamber, something a little different on the Edison filament, just all kinds of variation. Hero's journey. And the way I do this is to try to optimize my code base. Now, I did end up adding somewhere around 15 extra fonts, and there are 9 blade styles to cover the 3 neopixel emitters, the main blade, the crystal chamber, the Edison filament, and each of these 3. When it was all said and done, I think I was at 94%, which it's been a while since I've really maxed out an install. So this has about 28 or 27 fonts on here, I think. And there are more on the SD card. They're just not programmed as presets. So if you want to use OS Proffie OS like edit mode to add presets, you can do that and it won't really take up any more of the memory because all it will be doing is duplicate a preset, change the font folder it looks at, maybe change some colors, and store it onto the presets.ini file. So you're not actually affecting the config, you're just doing that. However, if you wanted to come back in and manually program anything, my config will be on the SD card, and I've got a little template file with all of the 9 blades laid out, so you know exactly what to do, and you can just copy and paste. Or you can go in and edit what I've done if you don't like it. But this customer did kind of give me a bunch of sound fonts that came with their own blade styles. I only think I had to create my own for a few of them. So that being said, all the internals shown off, let's put a blade in it. This takes a 1-inch diameter neopixel blade, so that's what I'm going to use. This emitter is a little deeper than my adapter, so when I was testing with my 7/8 blade, which I normally use because it's the better pixels, it was a little loose, and so we're going to just use the old-fashioned. Again, this is the Proffie OS 8.5, the Starfall font package. If we go to the first Hero's Journey preset, so that's the first preset. And by the way, this is cranked very loud. It probably could be programmed a little hotter, but I wanted to, again, avoid really maxing that speaker from touching this. So it just sounds loud, so we don't really need to bump it up anymore. But all that to say is we have power on, or we have 2 gestures on. We have twist on or thrust on. So, and that'll get you into battle mode. I've covered this plenty of times before, but I'll just demonstrate it here. There we go. So you can see, so we're just in regular mode, which means if we want to do a lockup, we have to hold either aux or power as we clash. And as long as I'm holding that button, as long as I'm holding a button, we'll be in a lockup. So lockups are also tip effects. So sideways will get you melt, and then point down will get you pointing down will get you the drag. So that was all manually done. All right. The easier way to do it is to do gesture control. So twist on. Now I'm in battle mode. If you tap lightly, you should get a clash, right? But if you tap more aggressively, then you'll get a lockup. And again, you can move it around, but when you pull out of that position, you'll disengage that lockup. So again, we'll show off the tip effects again. Sideways will get us melt. And again, you got to pull out of that position. When we're pointing down, we'll get your drag. All right. And then just aux for blaster blocks. And then hold power and tap aux to get lightning lock. All right. Now, if we're not in battle mode, and we do like we're going to do a melt, but we don't hold a button, you should get a stab effect, which is not showing up too great in this color. You can sort of see it lighting up there. I'll demo that in a different preset, so that shows up. So again, Starfall font package. Let's see what kind of stab effect we got here. Yeah, there you go. It's kind of a magenta-ish. So, but if you're in battle mode, it'll think you're trying to do a melt. So just a heads up. And if you do want to do a melt when you're in regular mode, again, hold one of the 2 buttons as you do that clash sideways. There you go. All right. So if we want to start and stop a track, hold power for 2 seconds. I've designated a specific track for each preset. So to get that one, you have to point the hilt up and hold it for 2 seconds. And then if the blade's on, you can get access to that. But again, it has to be pointed up. But any other position, hold it to turn it off. Again, 2 seconds. on power. And then to get the track player mode, now I load up all of the tracks into the common folder so that you can get to it from any preset. And there's also some Easter eggs in there if you want to look at the SD card. But basically, any other position than up, you'll get into track player mode. You'll hear a chime to start off. And then as you rotate the saber in one direction, you'll go forward through that entire list, alphanumerically. And if you rotate the other direction, you'll go in the reverse order. And then you can hit either aux or power or one of those two buttons and a certain turn. I'll have a printout that explains it all. But essentially, what happens after it plays that track, it changes. So let's just start it off and try it. So rotate. If we want to keep that playing, press the button, and now we turn it on. If we want to turn it off, it can be pointed upright. So again, you can turn off a track that is playing when the blade is on, but you can only start the designated track when the blade is on because it only works in the upright position. But if we hold power for 2 seconds with the blade on, we'll get a force effect. This will be different for every blade style, especially with the ones I didn't program, but essentially all the ones I've programmed for Starfall will do essentially like either an unstable or something like that for as long as a sound effect plays. Now, let's go to another.
Hero's Journey.
I don't think this one has quotes, so we'll stay on Infinium. So I have split up some of the sounds that originally came as force effects into force and quote. And to switch between force player and quote player, you point the hilt down and hold for 2 seconds. Again, this is all the power button holding for about 2 seconds. So power on, hold power for 2 seconds for our force effect. Okay. Now, if we point the hilt down, we should get a quote with no blade effect.
The theorized universe is part of the movement sound with calculated loops and space out. And gravity eventually moves everything back into nothingness.
Now, if we switch back, we'll get a force player. And we'll get that force effect. All that to say, it's set up for quote player already out of the gate. So if you add fonts in the future, all you need to do is make sure that they are the correct WAV file names in the correct folder name. And I did do that for at least one of the Saber or the fonts that was given to me. So
Hero's Journey.
For the rest, essentially, we're just going to go through a couple things. So I've already gone through all the button commands and just want to show off a couple other features. So that was Hero. Ruin, I do want to briefly discuss in case you haven't seen any of my other videos. It has a pre-on effect. You can only get the pre-on when you press power button and engage in normal mode. If you do a gesture, you bypass pre-ons. So it's just a quick little emitter flare on this one. There are the last 3 brand new fonts. I say brand new. They came out with the recent series of custom sabers that Nick did, the Alliance, Legacy, and Ascension. And so those all have pre-ons as well. Those are a little bit more glitchy, so they go faster, but Ruin is a good example. So that was just the pre-on right there. And we have our ignition. So if I twist on to do that, it'll just go right into the ignition. And we'll just show this blade style off. For the most part, what I've done on the crystal, for at least Starfall, is match the crystal color with the blade color. If you do want to go in and change that, you have to get into edit mode. I have made all of my accent pixels be separate from the main blade. So if you do color change on the fly, which will be on the printout, I won't show that off here. I normally do, but you can go back and look at a video. But essentially you can do color change on the fly, and that'll only affect the main blade. And so at that point, you'll have made it switch up. So I highly recommend getting to know edit mode because you can do quite a bit from the saber, and that way you don't have to know how to program. You just need to know how to get into the menu structure to the exact thing that you want to change. And the way I laid out this is in the way it makes the most sense. The very first blade style is the main blade, so that's the easiest to get to when you are entering the menu system. And then it basically goes down the saber. It goes emitter, outer, mid, and then center, crystal chamber, and then high, mid, and low on the neopixel accent, and then the Edison filament last. So in that order, that's the blade array. So just to show this one off real quick. So all that color changing talk, I wanted to bring up Corn Horn. This is the only exception to that rule. This has color change direct, so it just flip-flops between two colors. This white color, which is also in the crystal chamber, hold aux and tap power, and it wipes to this light purple, and then the crystal matches. So let me do that again. Hold aux, tap power, and you can see it wipe up there. You get a little sound as well. So this is the only exception to that rule. So now we're on the last bit of fonts for Starfall. So here's Legacy, and again, we've got a Prion. Told you it was short.
Lights. Ascension.
And by the way, on any character that it made sense to, I did put the voice pack. So I believe this should have Vader, maybe. So if we want to get into the volume menu, hold aux, tap power.
Battery level 60%.
Sorry, the battery level is hold aux. The reverse is volume. Hold power and tap aux.
Enter volume menu. Maximum volume.
So
maximum volume.
So you'll hear it click, and those are about 10% increments.
Maximum volume. Exiting volume menu.
Press one of the buttons to get out and to accept that. So we'll go back one and show that it's different.
Bias.
So I think this should be Obi-Wan.
Battery level 61%.
Yep. So I didn't do that for any of the other presets that were given because they're mostly from J. DeLorean anyway. So the main one
Party Saber
will be a version of a Sith because this is a mystery Sith. So here we are with the first set of 15 additional fonts that the customer requested. So this is the Party Saber. So this is the one where it'll go through all of the colors, and the way to do that is party mode, and you hold power and twist to the right. There will be a printout, and it'll say Effect User 1. So that is your party mode is Effect User 1. So heavy accent swings. There we go. Okay, so. And I've also made it, again, the crystal will match that same blade color. The only difference is there is an off style here. So I think whatever one you leave it off on, it stays on that color. So still in party mode. And then there are 3 other modes, and it's basically we'll just go through them. So if you do hold aux and twist to the right, you go to the next one. So I'm holding aux and twisting to the left, or twisting to the right to advance, to go back. It's that, and to do a random, it's hold power and twist to the left. So then you won't know what color it'll go to. But you can go forward from there. Oops. So And then again, party mode is just heavy accent swings. So you'll have that little transition sound. So now you know you're in party mode. And again, heavy accent swings. Okay, so that took a little bit to show off there, but
I need a weapon.
So now we're into a bunch of the Jadalorian fonts, and I don't know how well I did on matching any of the accents to the blade style, but I did use whatever blade style was given to me. Did a force effect. These are blaster blocks, clashes. Volt blade. Hopefully my mic's picking it up. This is very loud. Another Jade to learn. I'm not sure which one this is. That was the lockup. There's a stab. Melt. Drag. And then force. Don't know what that one was. So this one is for Ryan Scott Sachs, his Scavenger's Legacy. And this is just one of, I think, 3 different blade styles. So I just picked one that made sense. And interesting. The force effect that kind of does like the snowy effect for a little bit. Now it's back. The blast like dips it down. What's Clash do? Anyway. All right. Sorry, we'll try to go through these a little quicker. So this one's Stardust. This one's a kind of an unstable red with white energy. So I made the crystal be red. And then what does force do? Hope you're not epileptic. All right. Okay, so now we're into K-Sith. So when I watched his demo, I think it was more of an orange blade, so I went with like the color you would see on like Balin Skull or Shin Hati. Okay.
Desolation.
Another K-Sith font. This is Desolation. This one did come with a blade style. So it's like an unstable green. So there's greenish color crystal. Force effects. Lock up. Do the drag. Melt. All right. Moving on.
Master Benestra.
Okay, so here, this one's Light Whip. So this is from the Acolyte series. So I did initially use the blade style I was given, but I don't think it had the Cortosis clash. So what I did was use my blade style and then added the transition sounds. So just like you would do party mode by holding power and twisting to the right, to do Cortosis clash, you'll do that. But what you're doing is giving yourself an opportunity window to clash the saber. So you have 3 seconds when you hear like this kind of roar sound to clash. If you clash within that time period, your saber will dip out, it'll glitch out for a whole second, and then it'll reignite. So we'll do that real quick. That's our sound, so we'll clash. It's turned off the saber. It'll ignite halfway, and then so it's a 2-stage reignition sound. So now we're back into regular mode. So if we did clash, we're not going to do that Cortosis clash. Vernestra does have quotes, so if we want to go to test that out, hold power for 2 seconds facing down. Oops. That was the force effect. This is the quote.
Yet she eluded you, and she killed 2 Jedi Masters. How lucky these younglings are to have such a compassionate teacher.
So there are quotes there. I did make sure they worked. There's not a whole lot. Now we're back into the Force player. Okay. So that's Vernestra Light Whip.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
And this is Return. So this would be the old school Luke. I don't believe this one had quotes. But I did have a force effect. See if it has quotes. No quotes. And then the last few are some free grayscale fonts. I couldn't tell you what the names are. But again, the blade style comes from them, grayscale. And these are preons, by the way, and I'm getting those by pressing power. Essentially, almost every font you gave me has a preon, with a couple exceptions. And the very last preset is a battery level indicator. So when a blade is in, you'll see this little bubble. The further out it is, the more charged. And as it depletes, it will get down to this yellow, reddish, and down to here. If it is very low, you may start to hear audio artifacts. There's nothing to worry about. That just means this it's having trouble powering all the lights and the sound. So it's the sound quality suffering. Just means to charge. All of the accents, if you don't have a blade in, all of the chassis accents, so not the emitter, but the crystal chamber and LEDs here will go from a green for a full charge down to a red. So this is a yellow, which means we're getting pretty low. So I will charge it before it goes back to you. But on any other preset, if you do want to find out, again, hold aux tap power and you'll get
battery level 43%.
So we're at 43%. And that is the default sound that we're hearing. That is, I don't know who it is. It's some Sith that Brian Connor did. So that is the Saber. Again, this is a 1-inch neopixel blade, and it does come with our infinity blade plug. Got plenty of blade depth, by the way, so, you know, whatever blade that you do get will be great. So when we're ready, can undo the grip, and then our kill switch is right here. Everything goes off. If you ever need to, you can pop the battery out. Like you should be able to get your fingernail under the thing here, but I always just kind of do that because it's spring loaded. You can see I've clearly indicated the positive. Negative is always spring, and then it's got the Starfall logo down in there. So do be careful when you're putting it in because there is a bit of adhesive to get the chassis in. And if you're yanking the battery back, you're essentially pulling the chassis out. So you can always just hold it with your extra fingers and then use your finger to press it down. This is the Saberbay battery wrap. And again, it is also clearly indicated with the positive, but nipple always goes to the nipple, flat side to the spring. And there you go. That is the Saber. Appreciate your patience with this one and hope you like it. It's very loud. That was one thing you were hoping for. And we got all the fonts that we talked about. And yeah, so to the customer, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. To anyone else out there watching, may the force be with you and be good to one another. It's a crazy world out there.